might be a series of talks with business leaders from the Tamworth region prepared to share their insights on how they have coped with COVID-19 and the challenges that that's brought with the business. My name's Caroline Lumley. I'm on the board of the Chamber, and I'm joined today by my fellow director, Meredith Abrams, and Luke Fielding from Williamsburg and The Press. Luke's in the hot seat today. He has very generously given up his time, and for that we're really grateful. So welcome, Luke, and welcome, Meredith. Luke, can I just start by saying, well, firstly, thank you. So the Fielding family have two major businesses in town at the moment, Williamsburg and The Press. I'm correct?
Correct, Caroline, and thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, let's talk Williamsburg first, and let's go maybe even before the pandemic hit us. You were predominantly a dine-in restaurant. How did dine-in and takeaway compare for you guys?
So pre-COVID, dine-in sales were probably at least 95% of our income. This style of restaurant, it always leans towards the takeaway, and it has been a big part of us in the first 5 years prior to. But after COVID, it's a larger percentage now.
And so what did you have to, I guess, COVID hit, none of us were prepared. You've just said to us that you were probably more of a dine-in restaurant than anything else. So what did you do to, I guess, to prepare or to innovate and change as quickly as you could to become more of a home delivery?
Well, a few years ago, we joined this app that allowed us to accept takeaways. So we had our own Williamsburg app so people could order online. So I always had the technology available to me if potentially we had to purely become a takeaway restaurant. So in a way, without predicting COVID, we kind of built a business that could easily translate and move towards a takeaway only venue. As much as the difficulty of that is and has been in the last year, very lucky, pre-thinking without knowing that it was going to happen, we had that capability.
And so obviously you introduced an app. What else did you need to do? I mean, did you have delivery service?
So the app also allowed us to switch on to be able to do our own deliveries as well. So it incorporated both functions. So we didn't have to, at the time, we didn't have to go to a third party to do our own delivery. The technology was there for us to be able to implement it ourselves, and which was a big part as well to be able to keep staff employed. Having 20 plus staff employed, how do you keep them employed when you don't have dining? You have 5 or 6 people in the kitchen normally, and you potentially have 5 people on the floor looking after your dining customers. So when you don't have dining customers, what do you do with those other 5 employees on that particular night? So for me, to keep them employed, it was a no-brainer. They will do our delivery for us initially last year.
And obviously social media, I feel like social media played a really big role for you in getting the message out. Would that be fair to say? Absolutely.
One of the biggest things for Williamsburg and Norway has been is branding and the social presence. I think we have done incredibly well with that. We've been able to utilise it to our advantage. And we have a huge social media presence, nearly 9,000 people on Facebook, nearly 3,000 people on Instagram. So all our efforts, especially during COVID and the first lockdown, everyone was online. We were already there. So that was, if you're not online, you should be online. If you don't have a website, you need a website. If you don't have a social media presence in 2021, I strongly encourage you to get on there, because it is a massive, massive part of doing business in today's society.
Yeah, very true. I don't think you've got a social media specialist there with Mary on the line with us, and I'm sure she would agree with those sentiments 100%. So now talk to us about the app, because you've recently launched a new app. So for those people that, might not be as technologically savvy or as comfortable in embracing technology, how did you go about finding a new app provider? What did you need to do in that?
So there was a buyout. The our previous app, there was a buyout, a new company, an overseas company bought this, and the previous app started by a local man in Dubbo. When they were purchased by an overseas company, the transition wasn't smooth. There was a lot of technical errors. There was a lack of communication. So that's when I started doing my own research and branching out, okay, what in Australia can support Williamsburg in a smooth transition and a more user-friendly app without paying the larger fees to an overseas company in Europe. So we found a great app. It allows us to use our own imaging through the app. And it was just a more user-friendly and smooth process, which it's been launched for about a month now. We've had great feedback. It's very easy to use, and yeah, so far so good.
I guess that's probably a bit of a tip, really, because I mean, sure, there's a financial commitment to something like an app, but things like social media, trying different methods of getting the message out, trying different services, it really is. There should be no limit to how many times you try something, provided
exactly right.
to do so.
Exactly right, and you always have to be willing to adapt. We're in a forever changing world. You have to be forward thinking all the time. You've got to be, okay, what can go? I know it's not nice to think about the negative, but if you don't have a plan in place to deal with the negative, you're going to be left behind and chasing your tail. So you need to be at the forefront in business, in everything that you're doing. And again, it's not nice to think about the negatives and what go wrong, but it should be part of your business plan. How do you get through potentially, whether it be competition or a virus? It should be a part of your business plan.
Yeah. So now other home delivery options, we've spoken about this ourselves because I think that's been, especially this time around, the second wave of the pandemic, there's now Zoom, there's a number of different home delivery providers out there. What path did Williamsburg choose to take?
Okay, so when we offered the staff did the delivery during the first lockdown in 2020, a big part of making that easy for us to do was JobKeeper. Without JobKeeper, I don't know if we could have done it more confidently or as successful. JobKeeper was a godsend. I know it may have provided somewhat of a false economy because some people were getting triple the money that they were getting, but money was there to spend, and it gave businesses the confidence to try things. So when JobKeeper finished and restaurants were able to come back and open, for a while there, we were operating at nearly 100% capacity. Delivery became a huge part of the Williamsburg brand, but it's not a very financial, profitable method to have so many people to be waiting around to potentially do a delivery. So we had to look at the local company. I've been talking to Zoom for many years, and we were always going to implement Zoom at some point, but we were also very concerned about this restaurant fits 150 people. So to have a full restaurant basically on every Friday and Saturday night, how do you offer that plus takeaways, plus the delivery side of it? Our kitchen was never really designed to be able to support hundreds and hundreds of orders every night. But it's something we've had to implement. We've had to put our own policies, procedures in place. We've had to only have a certain amount of bookings per hour to be able to cater for the large percentage of takeaway and delivery. So it's something we've had to work on. But I couldn't just stop delivery. Tamworth got used to us doing delivery. So that's when we reached out to Zoom, and Zoom are great. They're a local company, which is a big thing for me to support. I know there's other things like Menulog and DoorDash, but for us, it's all about supporting local, and that's the avenue we chose. And I love having the physical presence of Zoom. If something were to go wrong, those guys are just down the road. I can ring them up. I can have a face-to-face meeting. And yeah.
Look, that's probably a really interesting point. So what I'm hearing is that Zoom actually they're a franchise business here in Tamworth, whereas what the others are just a phone app based. They have no presence in Tamworth, other than they obviously offer drivers.
That's correct. And those companies always reach out. They're on the phone every week wanting us to join up. But again, I prefer to support local first, and I have to have that safety net of, if a driver doesn't want to do that job, perhaps with Menulog and DoorDash, that's it. The customer doesn't get the delivery. At least with Zoom, you ring the owner and then they'll come and do the job. You know, there's that safety net, because you never want the customer to miss out.
Well, that's a nice little insight in itself. But I guess, in fairness to all of those companies, they are providing employment for Tamworth as well. So,
Absolutely.
There's a new little industry and an upside. So let's also just have a look at, the first pandemic, things went kind of through the roof for you guys. As you say, you pivoted quickly, you profited from that by getting a really great uptake. How has it felt this time? And I say that understanding that, this is only a week, well, it's now 2 weeks lockdown, but what's the feeling like this time for you?
Okay. Personally for me, I have to stay positive. Being in a leader position, if you're not positive, it's a flow-on effect. So a big part of my job is to stay positive and support the team no matter what. To be honest, this lockdown in the last 2 weeks, it has been deflating. It's here we go again. And I just don't feel the confidence is there this time around. We have done just what we've done last time, but I noticed many of the restaurants, many of the pubs, they haven't even bothered to open. Feel not having JobKeeper, the money's not there to be able to just purely go to takeaway. Congratulations to all those businesses still making the effort to do so, but I completely understand as well, it may be financially better off to just shut the doors this time around.
Yeah, look, that's obviously going to be
disappointing as that is, but it's the reality. If you're a restaurant and you're 95% dine-in, how do you support a massive team by just purely going to takeaway? It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. But there's still a big message out there for the community that they really need to, where they can.
Absolutely. And honestly, this time around, it hasn't been as busy as the first lockdown. We've definitely noticed that last week. I felt all this panic buying initially, probably from Monday, Tuesday last week, everyone stocked up on supplies. The last week was quiet. The weekend was good, but announcing it again, I'm a bit worried about the next week. I'm not sure how it will go.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. Now, you talk a lot about your team and your staff, and you are obviously a family business. So how have you looked after your staff through all of this? And, JobKeeper aside, what are some of those things that you've needed to do? And indeed, have you had to say goodbye to many of your team members?
So obviously first time around, we kept everyone on board. This time around, you really had to think about, okay, you nearly had to put in an order of the priority of the staff you have to look after. It unfortunately, for the junior staff that live at home at mum and dad, well, maybe they don't get many shifts this week, as opposed to your senior staff who have families who are raising the kids. Of course, you're going to support them. For us, we built our safety net last year, just in case, part of that planning. If this happens again and we do go into a lockdown, you need that money behind you. There will always, I'm assuming there's always going to be the government help, but I think you have a responsibility as well to have your safety net. And I know not all businesses have that luxury, but a big part of our planning was have the safety net, keep your team employed, because when we're out of this, you're going to need them. And so a big part for me is still being able to support our team, or at least guide them to the support that they can get if we're unable to help them. But I think we're doing okay, and we'll support our team no matter what, as long as possible.
Yeah, no. So now, look, they say, and I have to ask this, they say that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. we're seeing a lot of other burger joints pop up around Tamworth, trying to take on the original and the best in Williamsburg, I guess.
Thank you.
How are you feeling about some new competition?
Okay, competition it's healthy. It's healthy. I don't spend too much of my time focusing on them, but I do spend enough time on them to know what they're doing. And then it comes back onto me to make sure what we're doing is better than what they're doing. Yeah, so I think we had 3 in the last probably 3 or 4 months open, which is fine because, you know, they're employing locals, they're boosting the economy. It'd be nice if there was some fresh ideas. I think Tamworth deserves some fresh ideas rather than the same old, same old. But good luck to them all. As you said, we're still here. We're the original. We still think we're the best. So we're here to stay. It's no big deal.
Yeah, no, look, good to hear. I might just hand over now to Mary to talk to you a little bit about the press.
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll have a little wrap up and talk about the overarching learnings from COVID and where to from here. So, Mary, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Caroline.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. And Luke, thanks for being so open and honest about Williamsburg. That was really great to hear, and I'm sure everyone else will love listening to that.
Thanks, man.
So, yeah, on to the press. So can you talk to us about your considerations for the press 2020 compared to 2021 in terms of COVID and how you kept that business going and what you decided to do?
Look, it's a completely different ball game, the press, compared to Williamsburg. Last year, we were actually shut for 72 days. It didn't seem financially a smart decision for us to keep people employed to purely do takeaway. The press isn't known for food. Yes, food is probably, it's only 5 to 10% of our income, but you're probably not, if you want a pizza, you're probably not going to think of the press. You're going to go to Domino's or Papa Luigi's or Presto's, you know, more known. So for us, yes, we could have made the effort, but personally it would have been myself doing that work rather when I felt during these lockdown periods, it was probably more important for me to make sure Williamsburg can support both businesses to a degree. So we got over that 3-month period last year where we were shut, and we opened with a bang. The community were out and supporting us greatly, and it was so good. The press was back, and it was an incredible feeling. This time around, again, it's just not financially smart for us to put 2 or 3 staff members on to try and do some takeaway sales. It's not the business that can survive on takeaway. We're a bar. We rely on people coming in buying drinks in abundance, sensibly. So, look, honestly, the hardest thing you ever have to do personally is to tell your team that they're out of work. It's shattering. It's extremely hard to do, and you have those little moments where you nearly have a tear. But all we can do is reach out to them on a day-to-day basis, make sure they're doing okay, and guiding them to where the support is for them.
Yeah, well done. And can you talk to us about outside of the lockdown, just functioning normal now in this COVID society, and how you go with that being such a boutique venue? Is it hard to do with your certain spacing and that sort of thing? Has that had such a great impact, and are people respecting the restrictions when they are out and about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The community's been great in regards to the rules. To operate a business in the last year where you were shut for 3 months, your capacity limits were constantly changing. You can have live entertainment, you can't have live entertainment. All right, you're 1 per 4 square meters, now you're 1 per 2 square meters. It's just a yo-yo. We adapted to every restriction put in front of us. I think we've done well. But you get to the point where you're just opening your doors to pay the bills. When you can have less than 50% of your capacity, it's not very profitable. So that's all we've been doing this year, is opening our doors, making sure the staff have a job, making sure our bills are getting paid. It's been tough.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to touch on something you said before about after the last sort of lockdown closure where the community came out really strong. I think that's really something to make note of, that the positive that has come out of this is everyone's realising the benefits of supporting local and getting behind all the businesses, and I think that's really great. And you see a lot of that on social with your own pages, of course.
Yeah.
So before I hand back to Caroline, is there anything that's coming up for either businesses that you wanted to share or give us a bit of an insight into?
Ooh. Look, having the doors closed at the press, I've got a lot of new things coming, some exciting things as well. Just prior to the lockdown, we're offering that QR code ordering where you no longer have to leave your table. You can bring up the entire menu, you can pay and order. So that's cool. I've got 2 or 3 other really exciting things that I don't want to get into just yet in regards to the press, but I think everyone's going to love it. With Williamsburg, I'll probably have a new menu that I'll launch in the coming weeks. It's done. I had it ready to launch, but probably now's not the right time to launch it because you don't have dining customers. But yeah, get excited because that's the next thing for the Berg is a brand new menu in the next few weeks. Hopefully, if we're out of this lockdown.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm definitely excited. It's 2 of my favourite venues in town. So thanks so much, and I'll hand it back over to Caroline.
Yes.
Thanks, Meredith. Thanks, Luke. Actually, Luke, I've got one more for you. So suppliers, because obviously suppliers are now a challenge getting anything out of Sydney or anything that's not sort of, local. Would it be fair to say that majority of your suppliers are local, or have you had some challenges in that space?
That's correct. We haven't, all our suppliers are local. Probably the only struggle may have been catering suppliers are one of our biggest suppliers, and obviously some of their suppliers don't come directly from a local avenue. That has been difficult getting stock in some areas. Back to the press, getting whiskey's a big part of our business. Getting like Japanese whiskies and everything else, it's been hard. There's been no stock. It's been hard to get it to come into Australia. So there's a huge problem there. But back to Williamsburg, the majority of our suppliers are local, so it's been okay. Although we haven't directly, they might not be telling us how hard it is from their end, but yeah, from us it's been okay.
Oh well, that's really good to hear. So I guess there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a few, I think, messages that I really heard resonate quite strongly from you, which is about looking after your staff particularly well, making those difficult decisions, but to prioritise. Probably looking at in terms of buy local, shop local, stay local. So using local suppliers wherever you can has been a big godsend for you, and technology. Because I'd even hazard a guess that QR code for the press actually has some kind of COVID benefits to it, because it doesn't require people to go and queue up next to each other at the bar anymore. It's hard to social distance across a bar. So another takeout that I'm hearing from you is, of course, for people to start to embrace technology, because we're well and truly in a very, technology-based universe now.
You're not willing to adapt, you'll be left behind. But yeah, one of the biggest messages for us is please still get out and support those hospitality venues that are still open. There's a lot of us trying, and we can only do it with the local support. I know you guys did it in abundance last year. We understand that people are nervous this time around. There's not as much money without JobKeeper. We understand, but if you want to have all these venues to be open in the next few months, we need your support. So please get out and go support local. Thank you.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Luke Fielding from Williamsburg and The Press. Thank you, Meredith. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this talk today, we've obviously pre-recorded this one, but we can look to do more of these talks and even do them live. So please leave your comments below. Tell us what you think. Tell us who potentially you'd like to hear from, and we'll look to make that happen. But thank you so much, and thank you for joining the Tamworth Business Chamber.
Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Meredith. Cheers.
Thank you.